Hello, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with artists from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Yarkich. This week I'm speaking with Tawhai Rickard. Tawhai is a contemporary New Zealand Maori artist born in Gisborne, Tūranganui-a-Kiwa of Ngati Porou descent. He is influenced by the epic history of his country, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and its historical interrelationship between Māori and Pakeha to the present day. His work reflects the social, historical and cultural landscapes of Aotearoa, Korerō, commentary, history and stories about our journey as New Zealand. In this episode, we have a beautiful talk about Tawhai's journey from growing up in Tairāwhiti, Gisborne, really seeing artwork representing his Māori culture, to becoming an artist himself. He reflects back on his first experiences drawing and how some of those ideas have actually been carried through to his art practice today. He talks about how he creates work to honour his Māori culture, to lift it up and to make as much noise visually as he can, encouraging people to stop and take notice. We discuss his interest in pop art, music, TV and movies, British and New Zealand pop culture, figurative paintings from his ancestral wharenui or house, and our bicultural foundations, and how all these things create fuel for his art practice. I do apologise for the sound quality of my voice in this Zoom recording. Luckily, the person we really want to hear from sounds amazing. Calling Tawhai Rickard in Tauranga, Bay of Plenty. Kia ora, Tawhai.
Kia ora, Mandy. I'd like to say a little pepeha, my self-introduction, please. Ko hikurangi te maunga, ko ea pū te awa, ko nukutai meme ha te waka, ko Ngati Porou me Ngati Porou oku iwi. Ko Tawhai Rickard ahau, te kai kōrero rangatira Mandy tēnā koe.
No, great, thank you, and kia ora, Tawhai. It's so lovely to have you here on the podcast. Thank you very, very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories. So I know you were born in Gisborne in New Zealand. Can you please tell us about your ancestry a little bit and something about your childhood? And then it'd be great to hear about how you discovered your creativity.
Well, my ancestry, first of all, I belong to the East Coast tribe of Ngati Porou on my mother's side. On my father's side, it's Ngati Porou. I have Spanish ancestry through a whaler who came to New Zealand in the 18th century. His name was Jose Manuel. And he married into the local people there. My great-grandfather on my father's side, came from Dublin, Ireland. And that's the Rickard. And he married into the local people as well. So that's a bit of my ancestry. I was born in Gisborne, raised in Gisborne and the East Coast, Ngati Porou area amongst my people. I knew my great-grandparents, or a couple of them anyway. I knew both sets of my grandparents. Brought up on the marae, different marae around the East Coast, and just absorbing the culture of my Māori ancestry throughout my childhood. Growing up in Gisborne, everything was Captain Cook. You know, you had Cook Hospital, you had Cook Street, you had a statue there on Kaiti Hill. You had replicas of the Endeavour up and down Gladstone Road every 50 metres or so. So everything was kept in Cook. It was part of the cultural landscape, I suppose, but nothing really outstanding or honouring our Māori ancestry and those origins on the East Coast. So over time, that's changed a little bit. You have artwork of different Māori ancestors and depicting different stories of the area these days. Only up until recently. Before then, stretching right back to Cook's arrival, we had nothing. So growing up as a child on the East Coast, you experienced your culture, but it wasn't really told in the mainstream of New Zealand.
It wasn't really communicated or celebrated through the art world, was it, at that time?
Certainly not, no.
Sadly. No. And were you, as a child, somebody who liked to make and create?
I remember crawling into a closet space only about a foot high when I was about 4 years old, with a pencil and paper, and I knew what I knew I was doing in a way, even at that age. And I drew a picture of Robinson Crusoe on a little island with a coconut tree, and at the time I thought it was the best thing ever. But the funny thing is, now I look at my figurines of my artwork, my paintings, they're very similar to what I remember of that figure of Robinson Crusoe. And I haven't, it's almost like I've stayed quite close to that, really, that tender child that first experienced what it is to draw a picture. And I've carried that, well, as you grow up and you try and draw things realistically and try and, you know, draw the best truck or the best, you know, maybe a horse or something like that. And it's almost like it's come full circle again, back to how I used to draw the aesthetic. Although my work is quite dialogue rich and full of narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite amazing, isn't it? So many people I speak to on the podcast, they can see the connections with their work now, with it's happened as a child or something they've made as a child, which, you know, it just must be so ingrained in us somewhere.
Yeah, I think it is. And like Picasso once said, you got to trust your hand rather than overthink things. You trust your hand will do the work. And it takes me back to that figure I drew of Robinson Crusoe way back in the day. It's quite a nice little story.
Yeah, it's a nice little full circle, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And at high school, Tawhai, did you discover the art room and get into art and sort of realise your talent, or did that come a bit later?
No, I carried on thinking like an artist throughout my childhood, and when I got to high school, I had as you can imagine, a different amount of number of diverse art teachers, all wonderful people in their own way. You know, and it was only until my last year in high school at Ngati College in '85 that I sort of learned about my Māoritanga a little bit more and pressed into that side of myself. And it kind of set off an explosion within my mind and soul to follow my Māoritanga culture and actually pursue that following my school years. My art teacher at Ngati College was the late Ivan Eho. He was one of those original Maori contemporary artists, I suppose, along with Sandy Atsett and those sort of people, Cliff Whiting. And he kind of got alongside of me and really sort of like a teacher's pet sort of thing, you know. And he really took me under his wing and nurtured me. And funnily enough, I ended up at Tairāwhiti Polytechnic about 5 years later in Gisborne, and Ivan Eho was running the Māori arts course then. So I got back under his wing, and I was the teacher's pet again for the second time.
That's so good.
I was never a teacher's pet at school, you know. I was just one of those kids who went. But when it came to this sort of thing, yeah, I was his teacher's pet. So
that is brilliant, and how lovely to be able to continue that journey with him. You know.
Yeah, it was kind of short-lived though, in a way.
So you were actually doing like a degree, was it a degree in visual arts, or what was the course that you were doing?
Oh, this is back in the day where you get a certificate. I don't think it was a degree.
Oh, okay, right, yes.
Yeah, a little certificate, foundation year, and then your advanced year. So yeah, that was my journey anyway, through the start of my journey through education in art. As an artist, practicing artist, but I knew I wanted to set off a flame inside of me to pursue my Māoritanga and to create work to honour our Māori culture and to lift it up and to, you know, make as much noise as you can visually. So people would just stop and take notice, and and join in on the conversation, if you like.
And was that the beginning? Is that where you see yourself as the beginning years of you being an artist from there? Yeah.
Because when I finished school, when I attended Polytech in 1990, I was like a real East Coastie, you know. I'd on the land and diving and fishing and crayfish and setting nets, and I used to do all that with my whānau. It was quite rugged, the lifestyle, but I loved it. But even that sort of gave me some kind of background, if you like, to propel myself forward.
Yeah, totally. It's an important part of your culture, and then, you know, what you end up expressing through your artwork, I guess. And why did you actually decide to go to Polytech at that point? Were you hoping to just learn a few more skills and become a full-time artist?
Yes, well, it was kind of getting to a point where it was becoming kind of pointless, you know, just living on the coast and not knowing really what you're doing, other than living off the land and whatnot. I attended a course under my uncle Tawhai Rickard. I attended a course called Te Aotearoa. It's like a life skills course with a whole bunch of other young folks and not so young folks living in the East Coast. And one of those courses consisted of a bone carving course, a block course. And one of Ivan's understudies, my friend now, he's been my friend for a long time, Lionel Martinga, he came through from Gisborne and with all his bone carving gear and set it up, and then we all did this bone carving course, and that reignited my passion for the Māori arts again. Promoting the Māori arts course at Tairāwhiti Polytechnic as well at the same time, so I jumped on board the following year.
Were you thinking at that early stage that you were going to have a job or another career that would go alongside your art practice, or were you sort of intent on becoming a full-time artist?
Well, I've never really been a full-time artist. I've always worked as well. I was working on the county council before I went to Gisborne in 1990. We were doing like weed eradication around the East Coast and that sort of thing. And I suppose if I hadn't have gone to Polytech the following year, I would have probably gone back to doing those sorts of things and working in the wool sheds and hay fields and whatnot.
Yeah. So you discovered your passion for art, and you were really, I guess, at that stage also really wanting to express your cultural identity through your art. I love the way your work now is very, it's like a sort of celebration of Māori culture and way of life, but also has that sort of bicultural feel where you're really kind of acknowledging also other descendants and other people who came to New Zealand. Can you tell us how you went from studying into your practice and how you discovered the techniques and style and ideas behind your work?
Well, I mentioned just a little earlier about being the teacher's pet just once. And well, Ivan, he sent me away to get studied up and whatnot, and then to return back to Tairāwhiti Polytechnic to become one of his tutors. Sadly, Ivan passed away in 1992, and for myself, I never really returned home. So I've been living in the Bay of Plenty for the most part all this time. And then you get institutions, and you can become very institutionalized, very indoctrinated. And I was one of those students who were like always on the outskirts, kind of like a little rebel group on the side. I was one of those ones. And when it's like that, you're not really the teacher's pet anymore, if you know what I mean. You're not the tutor's pet anymore. And so as the years roll on, it becomes hard in a way to create that profile, because you don't really have a lot of that support with and under you and around you.
Yeah, and I guess he was like a mentor to you, wasn't he? Which you lost.
Yeah, my mentor had passed away in Ivan, and yeah, but on the other side, you learn to form your own narrative, if you know, your own korerō, and you start creating and forging a mindset and a creative approach of your own that's unique. That's the upside. So yeah, I mean, I've managed to do that, and it took quite a while, actually. I mean, I went through a lot of experimental sort of phases of my art practice. I was always interested in pop art, and so I did a kind of a Kiwiana Māori / Māori pop art style for a while, and I've always been interested in music, television programs, movies, and that sort of thing. Not just the visual side of things, but that actually creates fuel for your visual practice. Yeah, and particularly with British pop culture and New Zealand pop culture, just that goes hand in hand with our bicultural foundations, the bones of our country, which for the most part, generationally, we've sort of forgotten about and tried to keep up with the Jonesies or whatever like that. And we've lost track of who we really are and where we come from. which I think is a shame. Never been taught in schools, our history, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm communicating that through my artwork. It's come back around. I use pop art as well as Baroque elements of the Victorian type era, coupled with the figurative painting of my ancestral house in Ruatoria, which is Ngati Porou. That's an ancestor. She was a chieftainess. She held a lot of mana. So within her personification, her whare, the whare nui are all the figurative paintings that create like a whakapapa genealogical belt around the interior. I use that figurative style, which is I don't like to use the word folk art. It's figurative painting of that era, of the Victorian era, and its origins are found in kōwhaiwhai, the discipline of kōwhaiwhai, you see. And then it spawns from that, and then you get all this imagery and figurative paintings that are more sort of humanistic rather than sort of the serpentine style of Manaia. So yeah, I couple all these elements together, and I draw upon pop art to inform my practice according to our bicultural foundations.
When did you actually start making the work that you've been doing in the last sort of 4 or 5 years? Is that relatively new, or is that something that has always been there over the last 20 years?
Yeah, like the Ngati Porou sort of figurative style I mentioned. I was always doing it over the years to some degree. And that would come out in the form of, like figurative Manaia paintings, that sort of thing. And then, of course, there was that Māori pop art stage. But I sort of started to get back into the actual figurative painting style in 2014. When in Tauranga here we had the 150-year commemoration of the Battle of Gate Pa, and there was an exhibition. I submitted an artwork, a wall hanging, using the Victorian look, because according to General Duncan Cameron, who was in charge of the British forces at Gate Pa here in Tauranga, when he viewed the Pa site, he said he likened it to a Victorian picket fence. And so I kind of jumped on that idea, and I created this work called pekerangi, because pekerangi is a palisade, like a fence, a light palisade, almost like a picket fence, and I painted all my figurines on these panels, and it won the whole damn thing. And then a lawyer's firm in Tauranga here purchased that at the celebrational dinner. Wow. They got me to go up there and talk about it, and someone held it next to me, and I was yakking about it and blah blah blah, and then they purchased it right there and then. I think my story convinced them.
That's brilliant, and I imagine for that kind of work, it's just so nice for people to hear from the artist, the ideas behind it.
Yes, yeah. That's always good.
Yeah, I love that piece. And so from there, you sort of gained some momentum, do you think, over those 10 years? Was that when you really started coming together?
Yeah. When you get a little bit of success, it's kind of like throws things into a gear. I kept sort of doing similar type of work, and selling everything that I was doing here and there and everywhere. And then I just rolled on. I met Matthew Clark, who's my agent at Paul Nash Gallery, and he and I hit it off. And he could see something in my work that others couldn't really necessarily see straight away. So he was sitting there on the floor in his gallery, and I was sitting on a chair. He was on the floor next to the work. It was laid out on the floor, and he was he was really excited and talking about it and saying stuff that only I would know.
Really?
Yeah, but he knew it too. So I thought, oh, this joker knows what I'm doing here in a sense. Not completely. Don't give him too much credit. But he could see enough, and he said, "Yep, let's go, let's do this." And then we started having success with my art style and having exhibitions and stuff like that. And but there's still got a long ways to go.
Yeah, and what year was that?
Oh goodness, this is since 2015, I think it was.
Isn't it great to make that connection with such a great gallery? And Paul Nash Gallery, they just seem so good at sort of jumping on board with an artist and wholly supporting them.
Yeah, well, we got a bit of history. His father worked at the Freezing Works, and so did mine. Back in the day, he's a Gisborne boy, and so am I, as well as an East Coast boy. But yeah, no, we're great mates. We've only not seen eye to eye once, but that was just a little minor thing. But yeah, no, we're like brothers in arms.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's just the best situation, isn't it, for an artist to be represented by a gallery who you have such a great, connection with.
One thing I like about Matthew is that he doesn't just think about money. He's not just about business. He thinks about the total picture. Whānau, well-being, mind, body, soul, spirit. In his own way. I mean, we have differing views on spiritual things, but he's quite good like that. Not just about sales and money and that. Yeah.
Amazing. And that sort of connection, that first connection that artists have with the gallery when they haven't been represented before, can be hard to make that sort of initial connection with the gallery. Do you have any advice for people, or can you tell us how it happened for you?
Well, it was my wife basically who introduced me to Matthew. She knew about about Matthew, I think, through the pencil gallery that was in Gisborne prior. I guess it came at the perfect time because I had been sort of like I had been having levels of success, but I actually needed that next step, if you know what I mean. I needed that boost, and otherwise I probably would have kept doing what I was doing, but not really having the backing, and therefore the exposure and the clientele base and all the good positive relational benefits that you get from that. So yeah, I wasn't actually really looking for it, but it kind of happened, so it doesn't matter.
And it's probably a great thing. I mean, 9 years on, you're still with that gallery, which is amazing.
My wife keeps telling me to have a look at other galleries and all that, and I always say, "Oh, I'm not quite ready." I want to keep pursuing with Matthew, because you never know what you're going to get with something new with another gallery and all that. So I really don't want to really jump as such. I mean, is there really a need to? Is it the right thing to do?
It's always a hard question, isn't it, for artists? But because you're so well supported by him, and he's got the Paul Nash Gallery has great connections with Melbourne and other opportunities, which would be great, wouldn't it? Let's talk a little bit about some of your works, and then through that, maybe we can talk about your process. So you're really combining whakaaro carving with painting. And I love the way that you bring in some of the sort of Victorian furniture and that kind of thing and work with that. So some of your work feels quite conceptual in a way. Can you talk to us about perhaps Cook discovers Aotearoa 1769, which was an artwork that was in an exhibition called Here, Coupe to Cook, and that was at the Australian National Maritime Museum in 2019. So would you mind just talking a little bit about that, how you created it, how you came up with the idea and the ideas behind the work?
Yeah, I think trying to unwrap that whole history of Cook discovering Aotearoa, our historical origins, bicultural origins, trying to unwrap all that and put it back together, and kind of do it in my own way, sort of dress up the history, adding different narratives and presenting it as something that's symbolic, but also has these all these elements to it, these layers of information, people, and the history, and presenting that as a entire conversation piece, if you like. So yeah, it's just really unwrapping the history and then putting it back again in your own way. So
and that work was natural. Was it a replica of the boat? Was it the Endeavour?
I think it was the Resolution, his second voyage. It was that one. Cook's time machine was the Endeavour.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how did you actually construct that boat with all the sails, and then you added the paintings to
yeah. So, well, I repurpose a lot of sort of Victorian Baroque style furniture. I repurpose it. I actually piece it back together again. Sometimes that takes sort of recutting and reshaping, and I never use glue or nails. I always use screws in my work, and I put it all together as best I can. Knowing in yourself you've done it to a degree where it's not going to fall apart, and that your gallery folks can assemble it and disassemble, and also it can exist in a person's house. Those who have purchased it without the worry of it falling apart. I mean, yeah. So it's a bit of a dance in a way of putting things together,
That's so incredible the way you've done that, and I love the way it sits on the the original legs of probably a Victorian table, I guess. And that's like the plinth, or the standing support. Yeah, which is very effective. And so you're bringing all of these elements together, which is representing our biculturalism of Aotearoa. How do you choose what you paint on these objects?
Well, that's it. It's taking characters and scenes, and again, I'll refer back to the pop culture, using pop culture more modern, not so, or the historical, yes, but not as back in the day of Captain Cook or anything. But it's sort of like collapsing time, using pop icons as well, pop figures to tell the story, if you like. So yeah, it's collapsing time to bring a sort of like a historical relevancy, like create like a wheel, if you like, that just all rolls together in one time, rather than just looking back at a story and it's sort of far from us, or it doesn't really relate to us anymore.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to make things relevant to our New Zealand psyche, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it makes it even more relatable in a way, sort of bringing in those different elements.
Yeah.
Exactly. Are you sort of touching on some of the sort of controversy around decolonisation and all of those kind of things? Is that coming up through your work?
It comes out in my work when it actually comes out in my work. I find I don't really force anything, but whatever's floating around on the air, I usually manage to grasp, whether it's political or social, cultural. I'm kind of in tune in a way. I don't know how it works, but I'm kind of in tune with what's going on in my own way. I've always looked at my work as social commentary, cultural commentary, historical, contemporary commentary. So I'm like a commentator in a way, but it's almost like accidental. I never really wanted to be this. Like growing up, never really wanted to be a commentator as such. It happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just one of those things.
I mean, I think it's a fantastic way to reach people and educate people.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I remember when I first started doing my pop culture style, and it's like you had a lot of stuff. You felt like you had a lot to say to people, and it was like you just kind of in a way you expected everyone to stop what they were doing and listen to you. But that never happened. But then as the years have gone on, people have really stopped and taken notice and really been captivated by it and wanting to talk about it. And, so yeah, I find that quite amazing, humbling, and yeah, quite honoring.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what you're creating is so unique. You can't help but sort of be drawn to it and want to know more. The way that you combine the two cultures and you're combining different materials from those different cultures and from those eras. It's just really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I have a lot of fun doing those sorts of things.
Yeah, I bet you do. And how do you come up with the ideas? Do you sort of get an idea and start sort of making sketches or something like that? Or do you have an event in mind that you then create something for? Or how does your process work?
It's always good when you have something to shoot for. You like, but I find I have ideas come to me. Like I touched on, and I grab a pencil and a paper and my. Sometimes it's the back of a blimmin' envelope or something lying around. But I try go to the old my sketch pad and just scratch something down. Now, if you look at my work sketch pad, very unremarkable. Some of the sketches are just so look like potatoes, and but as long as I know what I'm seeing, then I can go along and bring that whatever it is to life. Yeah, sometimes it's just writing down words. I'm not really drawing anything. I have a thought in mind and I write it down, and I write down different things that I could see in the artwork, and I refer to that because the aesthetic creativity is always there. You've just got to have something to actually refer to and to jog that creative spark.
Mm.
Yeah.
And because you are repurposing objects, where do you actually find them? And do you sort of have something that you want to find, like a clock, for example, and you've got that in your head and then you go out to find the clock, or are you more like looking through things and discovering stuff that helps you decide on what you're actually making?
You go online. I use this thing we're speaking on the phone there, and just have a look at different. You look up antique furniture or retro or something like that. You punch it and you scroll through, and you're scrolling through and going like that. And as soon as you see something that aligns with what you're thinking, the light bulb goes off, and then you just you make contact, and that's how you go to second-hand shops, the old hawker shops. Look around, something catches your eye, you grab it, and then rest is history, really.
Yeah,
But
how fun though. What a fun thing to do. I love that idea. And I guess you must get sometimes really motivated by something that you see, which could take you by surprise and kind of takes you down another path.
Yeah. I mean, I bought a couple of chairs recently. They're like thrones. They're so elaborate and all that. And the person I bought it off was so attached to them, like an emotional attachment. And the person asked me, "Oh, what do you intend to do with these?" I wasn't going to tell them I want to chop it up and make it artwork out. She would have fallen over, but so I just said, "Oh, I'm going to breathe new life into it." That's all I said.
That's a good
And
answer.
I'm not. It's a white lie, but otherwise she would have been horrified if I'd have said, she had them for 50 years or something like that. And
Wow, how amazing.
so I just kind of said to her, "Oh, yeah, breathe new life into it, make something fresh." And yeah.
Yeah. Well, you never know. She might be pretty stoked with what you created from it in the
Oh,
end.
she could be, but she was really attached to these things and kind of just wanted them to be put the fabric over a new fabric and what have you. And gee, this is going out. I hope she doesn't see this.
Oh, that's really funny. It's a good story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such an interesting work, and then you had this incredible win in 2023 with your beautiful work, the Victorian scenes from a Victorian restaurant, and that was an amazing prize package of $20,000. Can you tell us about how you came about entering that competition, and then tell us about the work?
Oh, well, I knew of the art exhibition competition from previous years. So I just decided to enter, and I was inspired by that song "Scenes from an Italian Restaurant" by Billy Joel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know he's not British, but as I said, that pop art kind of influence actually goes out a bit further, and I thought, what a nice sort of a spin on that iconic song, or an Italian restaurant, make it a Victorian restaurant. And so I got online again. I saw chairs, I saw table. I jumped in the car, got those on separate days, and then there were these backings of these antique kitchen set of the tables and chairs, and I saw them straight away, and I knew they'd make beautiful, elaborate little frames for little portraits. And so I got those, and then I just went went for it. I just thought, well, here you have the two founding peoples of our country and how they got together. And then there was a sort of a gradual, if you like, a separation of the two. It's similar to the song, Billy Joel's song, when he sings of this couple that come together and they meet at an Italian restaurant, and then they after a while they separate, and then at the end of the song there's an abiding invitation to come back together again. You know, it sort of said, I'll meet you whenever you want, anytime you want, at our Italian restaurant. And I thought there was a nice similarity, I thought, with that song and the way our country's history has unfolded. Two people coming together, forming a sort of a, you know, having an arrangement. Then as time goes by, we forget about our bicultural foundations, kind of like just forget about each other, and we're like a couple that sort of split up. We get married and then split up, and then there's that, as I said, abiding invitation to come back to the table again. That conversation, the table of conversation, two chairs, one little table, in a Victorian restaurant. So they're in accordance with our bicultural foundations, and talk it over again. I don't know what it's looking like today. As you can see, it's quite silly the way everything's been unfolding with the treaty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Waitangi, it's been quite crazy. I guess it's life imitating art imitating life in a way.
That was the National Contemporary Art Award, which you won from last year. So congratulations, that's incredible. I was going to ask, you know, how do you actually convey the actual story that you have in your mind for your audience, or are you happy for them to make their own interpretations?
Well, I guess you lay your narrative down in a way which evokes thinking, and allows for the participant, the onlooker, to form their own kind of thoughts on that particular piece of dialogue, narrative. I usually approach it like that. You know, you don't want to just you don't want to spill everything out there. You always got to have room for people to actually think, to engage, to think, and make their own mind up on something. So you could look at some of my my narrative, and at a glance, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But then you look at it and you think on it for a while. This is the participant, and then they come up with and I can tell you, like 10 times out of 10, they're actually seeing what I see in it, or wanting to convey.
Yeah, that's great.
Just through conversation with people. Yeah. So I'm doing something right. Yeah,
that's brilliant. And I'm sure, as I said, you're bringing something to people that makes them think, makes them stop and think about some of the really important issues of our country. You know, that's a good thing. And also you're celebrating Māori culture, like you said, in a way that wasn't always done, hasn't always been done through art. So, you know, you're a proud contemporary New Zealand Māori artist doing amazing work that is so good for our country to be able to express some of these ideas through that medium.
Right. It's a conversation, and it's a conversation we haven't always had.
That's right.
I think it's important. What's important, I see in my work is pretty important.
So, Tawhai, we were just saying that we could easily have part 2, part 3, part 4 with Tawhai Rickard. And, you know, there's so much that we could talk about your really fascinating practice and your journey. But we don't have time, and you do have a schedule to keep to this afternoon. So let's get on to the questions.
Yep.
What would you say to your younger artistic self?
Well, I'd probably say what I've managed to do in a way, and that's never give up, no matter what happens, how much rejection or how many wars you hit into. Just don't give up. Believe in yourself. Believe in your own mind and what you're trying to say, and just be unique. Don't be a carbon copy of someone else. Don't be over indoctrinated or institutionalized, and just don't give up. Yeah, keep going. Believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in what you're doing, it'd be hard for someone else to believe in what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have any advice for young Māori people or emerging Māori artists?
Yeah, probably the same thing. But also, be your own Māori. I mean, God never made us to be exactly like one another. The beauties and the differences. And sometimes you get that kind of stereotypical thing where you have to look a certain way and talk a certain way to be a certain someone, and that includes Māori. And but you don't have to. You can be an individual within the unified collective. Be yourself. Don't be afraid of your peers and what they might see you as or think you as, or you're not quite dressing the same and talking the same as them. Be yourself, because that's the true strength of a person, a human being, and certainly Māori. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what would you say is one of your or some of your biggest challenges as an artist?
Well, COVID came along and certainly knocked us for a little bit, didn't it? It kind of took the wind out of sails, and I still have flights, tickets for overseas things that I still haven't credited with Air New Zealand that were cancelled because of COVID. But I guess self-complacency can be a killer, especially when you're sort of raking in a few accolades and you're getting success and all that. It's easy to become sort of self-satisfied, a little self-satisfied with what you're doing, and that kind of takes that drive and that passion away, So self-complacency is a big one. Lack of momentum as well. You got to kind of drag yourself up sometimes off the couch or drag yourself off whatever, and then get back out and get in the dust and the dirt and whatever you need to do to create your work. So you got to have that momentum going. If you feel like the momentum's gone, no better time than today than to get up and to just start putting your nose to the grindstone again and get back into it. And also, I think as a country, New Zealand here, we not really been that great historically at promoting ourselves, promoting our artists. You always have artists like music bands and all that have to go offshore to actually make a go of it. So our country has been very poor in that sense of promoting ourselves. I think there's no excuses today, being everyone connected so well, why our government can't promote our artists, especially the up-and-coming ones coming through, and established ones like myself, who've been around a while and doing my artwork. Still, I mean, who knows? With the right sort of promotion, I could have been as famous as Elvis Presley by now.
Exactly. I love that analogy. Yeah, you're so right. And who are the artists who really inspire you?
Well, all all our contemporary Māori artists who have come before us, who have laid that foundation for us to build on. You have your Sandy Atsett and Cliff Whiting, Paramatchip, Robin Kahukiwa, those sort of artists, there's a host of them. And they've been a big inspiration to me. Also, just our Māori culture, aesthetically as well as spiritually, has been a big inspiration for me. And of course, I refer back to the pop culture side of things again. That informs my work as well. So that's been a big influence for me.
Yeah. And why do you think you make the kind of work that you make, Tawhai?
To talk with people, to have a conversation with people about what's going on, basically, what's happened, what's going on. I mean, if I wasn't doing it, no one else would be doing what I do with, in the art scene. So that's why I do it. Because if I don't, who's gonna do it?
Who's going to tell the stories?
Who's going to tell the stories? Who's going to show the story? Right.
Well, I'm sure that after this treaty, after this Waitangi Day that we've just had this week, which was a little bit more controversial than sometimes, and we have a new national government who are making some very controversial decisions. So I'm sure that's going to be great fodder for your art practice in the next year or so.
Well, it is. The new series I'm looking at is based around a symbol of a Victorian bathtub, which in a way represents our country. And going out to sea in a bathtub, well, you know what sort of level of success you're going to have. So it's kind of like a hybrid of a bathtub, Victorian bathtub, symbolizing our country. And it's called Victorian Waka of Inevitable Kaiboshery. That's the name of the series. Yeah, it's like in a lot of ways our country is sort of spiraling out of control, like a sinking bathtub on the ocean in a way.
Yeah, a sinking ship. Yeah, it's a bit of a worry, really, but yeah.
Something to talk about anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, we need part 2, 3, and 4 to get into that. But, so I'd just like to say thank you very, very much, Tawhai, for agreeing to come on the podcast. It's been an honour hosting you, and it's lovely to meet you. And I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for bringing the amazing work that you bring to New Zealand and to the world. And I just love the way that you're highlighting the Māori culture for us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Been lovely speaking to you too. And all our listeners, God bless.